Well, thank you for staying with us. Let's serve you the news review now. And joining us, Political Scientist Director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Sante. Doc, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us for another Wednesday news review.
Good morning, my brother. I hope you are doing well.
We're trying under the circumstances. I'm going to start on an interesting note this morning. What's the latest for you? I mean, you've seen stories over the past week, stories we may not have had the opportunity of discussing, from Galamsey to the economy. How's the economy of your pocket? And maybe if you could single out one issue to discuss before we get into the papers. I just want to know how Dr. Asah-Sante has been over the past week.
Looking at it, we can touch on the economy. It's still a difficult one. There's no two ways about it. Everywhere you hear stories. I get closer to the people at the grassroots to find out how they are feeling. Terrible, terrible. It's my hope and prayer that the country will be able to rise up to the occasion and provide a breather for the vulnerable, the needy, and the disadvantaged. Times are hard. And I know that when the government is able to put its act together, it should be able to address the problem. But it must listen and must welcome ideas, wherever it's coming from, whoever it's coming from. I have said, and I'll repeat it here, that if the ideas will come from even the devil, excuse my language, and that will be the answers for the country, why not? The government must be able to open up and then allow itself to listen more and then have ideas so that we can turn things around. Otherwise, we are in a very difficult situation. There is absolutely no doubt about that.
Let's get into the daily graphic now, Doc, and two related stories. Wager floods, hundreds displaced, low-spirited. I'll be giving you details of that situation, and of course, residents have attributed it to the spillage of the Wager Dam. Then, aftermath of floods, the water company shuts down 2 treatment plants. That's a related story in a different part of the country. There's also Chiefs residents want Empire Cement to operate, and College of Physicians secures £10 million to fight diseases. I'll bring you some details on some of these stories. But let's start from the front page of the paper, segueing into page 3. So hundreds of houses around the Wager Dam have been flooded, leaving many residents displaced and in low spirits. The flooding has also led to the destruction of items running into millions of Ghana cedis. They include vehicles, home appliances, uncompleted structures, documents, and other personal effects. The flooding follows the opening of some spill gates of the dam by the Ghana Water Company Limited. This latest spillage, which was unannounced, was to spill excess water to save the dam from collapse due to the recent rains. The areas affected include Oblogo, Tetegu, New Wager, SCC, Tatop, Sampa Valley, parts of Top Town, and American Farm at Englishy, Amanfro. And most of the affected places, including the Wager Dam site, have virtually become tourist attractions as people troop there to catch glimpses of the situation after hearing of the flooding. Yesterday, we were there with our drones and everything, and Doc, pathetic situation. But for me, what stands out? Usually, you know, when there's going to be a dam spillage, whether it's Burkina Faso spilling into our country at Bagri or other places, there would be an announcement beforehand. In this instance, the Ghana Water Company Limited had to act to save the dam, but in doing so, it had to do so unannounced, and that has culminated, so to speak, in what we are seeing. What's your take?
I am surprised that they did it unannounced. Why? Didn't they know that we are in this season and then there's a likelihood for this to occur? It all boils down to the point of our planning. I think the planning was poorly done. That is all. Otherwise, they should not be taken by surprise at all. And then you spill, and then the very people that you want to save the dam for, we end up destroying their home. What sense does it make? If they are planned properly and knew the raining patterns and all that, they will be able to put all these things into their planning and then save the society and save the dam as well. There's no point doing one good thing and then at the end of the day, it turns out to be what? An aberration or something that really affects society. It undermines the very exercise that they do. For this one, I will not grant them any credit at all. they got it wrong, and that next time they have to plan ahead. And then if there is a need to do some of these things, you need 1, effective planning, 2, education. And it should be constant education so that the people will be aware that at a point in time, this will happen so that they prepare themselves. And then 3, you should look at the pros and cons. What will be the ultimate benefit? If the benefit is to save the dam and by extension, support the society, then you don't also end up destroying the society with the same water that you want to throw out in order to save the dam. That becomes something difficult to take. But I think going forward, they will take this advice and then work with that.
Well, many of the victims have blamed the Ghana Water Company Limited authorities for not handling the situation well, as, like we are mentioning, there was no prior notice of this particular spillage. Now, when contacted, the unit committee member for Weija, Elder Amponsa Ampao, said having lived at Weija for over 20 years, he had never seen anything like that before. So, of course, it is testament to the fact that this is not the norm, it's the exception. But in this instance, it has wreaked havoc in those areas. Meanwhile, just to be fair, the Ghana Water Company Limited said because of the severity of the situation at the dam, it had opened 4 spill gates for water to flow and save the integrity of the dam. A statement signed by the head of public relations and communications of the company, that is Stanley Marty, said, quote, the Weija Dam is currently at the level of 49.5 feet as against the maximum operating level of 48 feet. So it was 1.5 feet higher than what is expected, and that has led to this entire situation. The public, it said, could call or WhatsApp the Ghana Water Company Limited on a number of numbers there. Let me just mention one. So the toll-free line is 0800 40,000. 0800 40,000. If you need any assistance, you can reach out. 0800 40,000. But tied to that, we'll go to page 20. And it's all about our water resources, flooding, and everything in between. So aftermath of floods, water company shuts down 2 treatment plants, and the Ghana Water Company Limited has shut down 2 water treatment plants as a result of the flooding of the pump stations and damage to equipment. The plants are the Achimota treatment plant in the eastern region and the Jambuse treatment plants near Wa in the upper west region. The flooding in Odan was due to torrential rains and illegal mining, also known as galamsey, while rainfall, in addition to the spillage of the Bagri Dam in Burkina Faso, led to the flooding of the plant in Jambuse. Talking about the effects, again, the PRO for the GWCL. Mr. Marty said the shutdown of the Odan plant had affected water supply to Odan, Akwetia, and Kade. He said residents of Ofori Atta were also experiencing low pressure in some areas of the municipality due to the flooding of the plant at Densuano. The flooding has affected all the equipment of the plant, he added. So twin problems, and definitely, apart from flooding, which partly is related to how we're dealing with our environment, there's also galamsey. Your reactions, Doc?
Yes. Our actions are speaking volumes of what is happening to us. Galamsey, we have said it, and people will not mind. Government has become adamant and is not in a position to enforce the rules simply because some of its members are accused of undertaking galamsey, so government has lost it. And now the effect is on all of us. I mean, Oda, a very cocoa growing area. When growing up as a little boy, my uncle had a village there. So I lived virtually all my life on Oda and its environs. Right. And there's a high place for production of cocoa. Today, we are undertaking galamsey, and the effect on cocoa production is, amazing. What are we doing as a society? Do we sit down and then look unconcerned? No, I think if government will not act, civil society groups within all these places must get up and use the law to address this thing. Because otherwise, a time will come, you won't even get water to drink, let alone look for water to go and mix chemicals and work on your farms and all that.
Just to interject briefly, farmers now are complaining that even to get water, they have to travel quite a distance when, in fact, there are water bodies around them that they can't use. Cocoa farmers have complained that to mix their chemicals, to fertilize their produce and all of that, they have to use sachet water. That's how bad it is.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? It's a shame unto all of us that we need to address this problem head on. Two is the issue of flooding. Floods have been with us every year, and our leaders don't seem to care about it. They will talk about it and then leave it. The talk shop must end. We need to walk the talk, all right, and do something about flooding. And that takes us to what? The way we keep the ecosystem. I mean, we are virtually destroying where we find ourselves. They will come, nobody will tell us the effect. We have started experiencing now. Look at Akufo-Addo now experiencing water shortage. It's a difficult one. I have lived in Ofori and I have lived in villages in Oda and all that. So I can tell the difficulties that people are going through. But we are going to see more if we don't put an end to activities that damage the environment.
Well, on the back page of the paper, 3 billion audience to watch Qatar 2022. It's all about the Mundial, and it's just a few days to go. In fact, 46 days as we count down. And interestingly, tied to that, if you go to the Facebook Live page of JoyNews, you would see there Milovan Rajevac, our former coach, talking about the fact that unity is crucial if we're going to make any strides in the Mundial, this global event. He may not be our coach, but it appears he still has fond memories of Ghana. Let's wrap with some international stories and sex for grades, corruption. Buhari, Nigeria's president, says sexual harassment in the country's universities has reached alarming proportions, and as such, law and order agencies are rightly treating it as a form of corruption. That's how it's been categorized. Let's head to Ukraine. And they are making some strides against Russia. They have retaken more territory in regions illegally annexed by Russia, with Kiev's forces advancing near the southern city of Kherson and consolidating gains in the east. And finally, back here in Africa, Burkina Faso is burning. Ghana's immediate neighbors to the north, Burkina Faso is burning yet again. In less than 2 years, Africa has experienced coup d'etats in Mali, Chad, Guinea, Sudan, and Burkina Faso. Any quick reactions before we leave the Daily Graphic newspaper?
I'm worried about the preponderance of coup d'etats in West Africa. We have struggled for a very long time to build a society that we call democratic. And today, all the gains, we are working against the gains of democracy. For me, as a student of democracy, I always stand for democracy. It doesn't matter what. Yes, we have seen some of the causes of these things being bad governance, poor economy, and the rest of them, human rights abuse and all that. If you read the U.S. State report on human rights, you read gory tales of human rights violations. We have also seen poor economic performance. I mean, economic decadence and all that. And our leaders seems to have no clue as to how to address the situation. All these things are the factors that soldiers rely on and stage coup. But that is not to suggest that coup d'etat is welcome. Never. Because I want to live in even a West democratic government. That doesn't give me anything, and I'll end up as a poor person. I prefer that because I'll have my freedom. That we refer always to the Gaddafi's Libya, where they say development. It's a development in the cemetery. It's not developing anything. It is not developing anything at all. Let us have build a democratic society that will stand the test of time. Right. We should not encourage soldiers at all. Right. And that is why the Convention on Elections and all that must be strengthened. And then we look at, the democratic architecture. How long can somebody stay in office? I think the tenure, sometimes 4 years and so forth, must be extended to about six, so that at least when people look at it, they know that they can come 2 terms for 12 years. That would do good for the society. I spoke about it when I appeared before the ECOWAS Parliament, and I think we need to revisit that. But apart from that, we as society should not be deceived into believing that soldiers have something for us. They have nothing. They will only pretend, and at the end of the day, we will be the sufferers when they are gone. Please, let us not encourage any military rule in Africa. It doesn't matter how benevolent they will be. We would throw them away. Let's stand up against military rule. It is the worst form of government.
Let's blaze through the rest of the papers we have this morning, Doc. And Ghanaian Times newspaper up next. 38 foreigners grabbed in Accra. That story on page 3. 3 accused persons in Mankasim murder case remanded. And cocoa farmers pension scheme set to take off this month. There's also GCPS obtains €10 million grant to conduct in-depth research into NCDS in West Africa. Let's start with that story on page 3. In fact, both of the stories on page 3. And about 38 persons alleged to be migrants from Niger were yesterday rounded up at Abofu in Achimota, Accra by the Ghana Immigration Service. All women, with some carrying children. The migrants were rounded up during a decongestion exercise in Accra organized by the Regional Coordinating Council and led by the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Mr. Henry Quartey. They were picked up around 11 a.m. by the GIS to its headquarters for further investigations. Now, the Municipal Chief Executive of the Okaikwe North Municipal Assembly, Ni Boy Laye, told the media that he was informed about the arrival of the migrants by residents at around 6 a.m. yesterday. He said the alleged migrants were said to have been dropped by a bus around 11 p.m. on Monday, with the whereabouts of the bus yet to be known. Ms. Laye noted that the intelligence found out that the migrants were making a transit from Niger to the Ivory Coast and other places. Ghana seems to be pretty, I know across the West African sub-region, many countries have rather porous borders, but it appears ours are particularly porous, and especially in this time of terrorist threats, coup d'etats in the sub-region, it poses quite a threat how easily people can get into our country. And even if they do not have any nefarious intent, the scandal on our streets, where they line our streets, they beg, they harass you, some threaten you. I don't know what your take is.
It's a worrying situation. It's worrying because, one, we don't know what are under their sleeves that they will, unleash onto our society here. Let us remember that some terrorists can take advantage of the number of people who are coming through this country illegally and then act very funny.
Right.
So for me, there's a security concern. The second issue also goes to the fact that what has happened to our security officials? Did they notice them or they took them by surprise? Are they working? Are they drawing salaries for which they need to work and protect all of us? And all of a sudden, we are caught in this web. It's something strange that they were able to travel from Niger to Ghana and that none of our security officials at post was able to recognize.
Let's talk about immigration and customs. Pardon the interjection, but they would often tell you about logistical constraints, human resource constraints. Just a few days ago, the Customs Service was here when we put out our latest documentary, one of our latest, Smuggler's Paradise. And they were telling us about how they are constrained when it comes to human resource. They can't be everywhere. They simply don't have the numbers.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That you want to give people a job, you don't want to support them with resources. How can they work? And for me, that is another aspect of the conversation. It's a difficult one. And that we need to, take some of these matters seriously because, take it or leave it, once we work to undermine the very security we want to build, we destroy our society. So I don't see why we can have money for things that are not so much important. And then the real security that we need, for which reason we set up government to protect life and property, and we are not able to fund that program. That becomes unfortunate. Let us remember that as soon as you break the social contract, people now resort to disobedience to the state. Is that what we want? We need to check these things because they don't send clear signals to us that we are in good times at all. I think our state, our government, our security, and all of us can do better.
And just to expand a little, as your former student, on that bit about social contracts, we give our power to those in authority, ceding to them what is our power so that they would work in our interest. And if they fail to do that, of course, there has to be consequences. I remember in class back then, this other lecturer, I've forgotten his name, he would talk about delivering the goods, the bacon. And if you can't deliver the bacon, of course, you will have to step aside. Interesting dynamics.
Social contracts, yes. Let's
talk about two more stories. I'll tie them together. 3 accused persons in Mankasim murder case remanded, and Christopher Clark Tufuhene of Aquakrom, and accused in the murder of a prospective student nurse, Georgina Asobotri, at Mankasim in the Central Region, has appealed to the court to release the 3rd accused person, Jonathan Oping, a 26-year-old Mason. Clark, before proceedings ended at a Cape Coast District Court, raised his hands and said the 3rd accused, Oping, had no hand in the murder of the victim since he was only hired to dig a hole in the Clark's room. He said the 3rd accused person had done no wrong and that the crime was committed by him and the 2nd accused person. It's a dastardly act that they've committed. 4 people now that they are said to have killed, but I find this development rather interesting that he says, you know what, this other person is not involved. We just gave him a job to dig, and he did that. It's almost as though they had a conscience, though they've done unconscionable things.
Let's leave it with the courts. Let them finish. We'll come back and look at it. Yeah.
Tied to that, manager in court for slashing worker's neck. And this just might be of great interest to you. A Chinese, Shui Hui, a manager of Polishangda engineering company in Takoradi, was charged with attempted murder when he first appeared before the 2nd Magistrate Court on Monday. Shui was charged with the offense after he used a flip knife to slash the neck of a Ghanaian concrete mixture operator, Isaac Boating, at Kwekuma near 2nd last Wednesday. His plea was not taken and he was remanded in police custody to reappear in court on October the 11th, 2022. It goes on and on, but I always say this. It appears we've emboldened some foreigners. And it's not to say that, I mean, they say South Africa is a rainbow country. I believe Ghana is as well. We're very accommodating to other people, but it appears we may be going over the top now and allowing some people not of local extraction to come and almost demean our own. This is not the first time we've heard of a Chinese, someone of Chinese extraction coming to do something like this. Here, he nearly killed this gentleman. Your take?
I still want to leave it with the court. Let them finish. Let them finish.
All righty, let's look at the back page. Government considering fertilizer COI for Africa market. That's according to Mr. President. And Kokma tows 50 vehicles for unauthorized parking. That is the Koliklote Municipal Assembly. That was yesterday. Let's quickly get into some other stories. Daily Guide newspaper now. Mankisim killer begs for suspect. I just brought you that story. Ukraine war biting African economies hard. That's according to World Bank country representative Pierre Laporte. Some people don't want to hear of this because they say, look, it may be having effects, but we're blowing it out of proportion. We're making a mountain out of a molehill. But that story on page 6. Nana I's Mida Compact 3, and we want justice for all parties, Chinese man's lawyers. And it has to do with that situation I was just making mention of, where a Chinese man actually slashed the neck of a concrete mixer. In the middle page, late Echo Blankson's video goes viral. And I'm sure you know him. He's, of course, been a manager here at the Multimedia Group. But a latest video in circulation shows, just a sec, Doc, late actor Echo Blankson in the hospital interacting with the personnel of the hospital. In the video, Echo, who was wearing a white African print attire, all smiling, could be heard telling the personnel that he needed to take a video to show that he was in the hospital. And unfortunately, we've lost him. Your quick take?
It's a very unfortunate story. I know him. I've read about things that he does and all that. It's unfortunate we lost him. Consulant, we want to console or mourn with the family and then strengthen them. They need to be strong in this time. But let's move on to Ukraine war, the effect on the economy. All right. There is no two ways about the fact that, look, times are hard all over. Even before Ukraine, we had challenges. It can't be the excuse in Ghana for any country. One, if you look around the inflation figures of countries within the sub-region and other places, you realize that in spite of all this, some of them are doing well. What has happened to our economy? It means there is something basically wrong with our economy. We should get that straight. Two, how long can government continue to blame the poor performance of the economy on Russia-Ukraine war? This is similar to saying that colonial rule has made us poor, and for that reason, we cannot come out. No. Right. We have gone through these things a long time. So it is the duty of government, which we trust and voted for, that it will fix this problem. Any excuse must be pushed to the back door. We don't want to hear. We don't want to know. All that we want to know is that we have people who are competent and have what it takes to manage the economy. That is all. Right. Any excuse will not inure to their benefit. Let them remember that one of the factors that influence voter choices in this country, number one, is the economy. The earlier they fix the economy, the better it is for them. Right. If they are eyeing 2028, that 2028, that they will break the 8. We want to see whether they will break it. If they break
2024, actually, to break the 8.
Sorry, 2024.
Right.
Because, look, What we are seeing now, we are in difficult times, but they need to get serious and fix the economy and stop the blame game. It will not help them.
Doc, I'll take a few headlines from 3 papers. I'll give you less than 2 minutes to react to them, and it's a wrap. Republic Press, UT boss Kofi-Addo flies into rage, blames Akufo-Addo and Ofori Atta for the economic woes of our country. Mahama pushes government over IMF deal. Then you go into the Ghanaian Publisher newspaper. Professor Kwesi Yanka writes, Birim River is gone. Birim River is gone. And recently, my own colleague Erastus Asare Donko, in that latest Hotline documentary, Destruction for Gold, actually brought to the fore how we've polluted our different water sources. And the Finder newspaper, 300,000 passport booklets expected in the next 10 days. That's according to Foreign Affairs Minister Shelley Ayiko-Botry. People have struggled to get their passports in recent times. Quick reflections, and it's a wrap.
Yeah, I will look at Birim River. It is very, very unfortunate. Recently, I've seen pictures about how flood is causing havoc at Chebi and other areas. Very, very unfortunate. But we have come back to the issue of the fact that we are destroying the environment through Galamsey and all that, and we'll sit down unconcerned. We need to pay dearly for that, and we're experiencing. Experts who have been telling us, don't destroy the environment, don't destroy, and we keep on destroying the environment. Now we are seeing it. It's not far-fetched. It's here. And the earlier we did something better, the better it will be for us. 2, the issue of, blame Akufo-Addo for economic woes. Apart from the president, who else? I mean, he is in charge of the country. We gave him mandate to fix everything for us. And he promised us that he has what it takes to do. So if we are in this mess or we are in such difficulty, then I think that he is the right person to address this problem for us. I mean, there is no other person, because if we are able to build a very solid economy, the president will be entitled to that credit.
Right.
So on that score, we expect him to also build if we are in difficulty. That's it. So I'm having what he said. It's nothing but what the right thing that he said. He hit the nail right on the head. The president must get his people together and fix this. I think that it is not beyond them.
Right.
They can. All that they need is that you don't need ideas only from MPP people, good people of this country. Just they have to extend the hand to all of them, those who have what it takes. There are a lot of, look at economic scholars who are talking and all that. And sometimes I ask myself, are they in this country? And do we want to make use of them? Your station has featured a lot of them. And if you look at ideas that they throw out on radio, TV, and all that, you ask yourself, are they far from government?
Right.
And government can reach them and then make the better use of them so that we can fix this economy.
Doc, we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning, and we wish you the very best of the rest of the week.
I'm also grateful to you. I wish you a good day.
Thank you. That is Dr. Kwame Asare-Asante, a political scientist, also director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Before we cross over to sports, I just want to remind, and I'll do this constantly, Ghana Police Service, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, Mr. IGP, or Dr. IGP, I greet you. One of your men, Che Pepra, assaulted some people on Sunday at Kaneshi Bishop. The story is out there. We've put it out. Tens of thousands of you have followed the story. We're not going to stop. We want to see some action. The Police Professional Standards Bureau has waded into the matter. We want to see action. A police officer simply cannot go out there discharging his gun, firing shots at civilians and assaulting them, slapping them. So, Dr. Dampare, if you're watching this morning, I am saying to you, we want to see action. We want justice done. On that note, we segue into sports. Do stay.